大家好，我是 Siran 在中国. Hey everyone, it's Siran China. How y'all doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm having a great day as usual. And if you want to have a great day with internet security, or perhaps while you're traveling, you want to be able to get around geo blocking, or if you happen to be in China, you want to be able to access all the websites that the Great Firewall of China won't allow you to see, I'd like to introduce you to SimpleLink. It's a fantastic VPN that I'm currently using now on all of my devices, my laptop, home computer, my work computer, my phones, two phones, my tablet, etc. It's fantastic. It's incredibly reliable, and not only is it cost effective, but they have a lot of packages. For exactly the kind of usage that you're looking for. And on top of that, if you happen to be in China, not only is the support excellent, but you can pay with Alipay or with WeChat Pay, which is incredibly convenient if you happen to be here like me. But anyway, let's talk about a topic that I mentioned in my last video, and that is the kind of change that I experienced in what I was expecting in this job and what has actually happened. When I went for my interview for this new energy company, our company here in China has two locations in the same factory village. One is an office tower in a business center, and the other is the actual factory where the manufacturing is done. Now, we also have other locations around the globe where the products are sold and utilized. For example, UK, Holland, South Africa, Australia, et cetera, et cetera. It's a big company in that regard. But here in China, we have the two locations. We have the factory and we have the office. Now, I was under the impression when I was hired that I was going to be working at the factory, since a lot of our engineers are based out of the factory and spend a lot of time at the factory. However, as it turns out, that wasn't the case. A lot of the engineers spend more time in our R&D, research and development department, which is here in the office tower portion of the company. Now, the big difference here is that in the factory, my job would have been exactly the same as it is now. And if you want to know more about my job, please look in the past video, my most recent video, where I talked about exactly what I do here. But I would have been doing that job at the factory, which would have been challenging in some ways, and also for me personally, very interesting in a lot of ways. It would have been challenging because the area where the factory is, there's not a lot in regards to public transportation. In fact, I tell my boss all the time how lucky he was to find someone like me, because I will work in an area like this where there's not many buses, there's no subway, there's no shopping centers and movie theaters, entertainment parks, things like that. It's factory town. There is not much going on here except for factories, little convenience stores, very small restaurants, things like that. And that would turn off a lot of foreigners who are looking to experience the modern technological wonders of China. It just doesn't exist here. And at the factory, even less so. Now, I take Didi to work every day, which is the Chinese equivalent of Uber. And it's quite inexpensive. I spend about $4 each way, which is probably less than I'd spend taking the bus these days back home to work and back. And it's quite convenient. It can take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour depending on the traffic, but because somebody else is doing the driving, I can just sit in the back with my phone and mess around, chat with people, listen to music, etc. So it's very convenient. I do also have a car, but once again, if I was spending that 15 minutes to 1 hour in my car each way, I'd be having to focus on the road and the traffic conditions, whereas the Didi takes care of all that for me. And I'll make a video in the future here to explain just how Didi works. It's incredibly convenient, and you can use it completely in English too, which is amazing. But anyway, the factory would have had challenges like, the smaller roads surrounded by nothing but factories, not much in the way of facilities. I would have been given a dormitory room that had been converted into an office, which to me wouldn't have been terrible. I wouldn't have minded that at all because that would have meant I would have had a private bathroom, a shower, so I could have worked out in my free time or done exercise in the morning, and then had a quick shower before work, and even possibly put a bed in my room so that if I was working late or if the traffic was terrible or I just felt like crashing early, I could sleep there. That's very, very common in China for those type of things. So that would have been very, very beneficial for me. I actually wouldn't have minded that at all. And dormitory life is not fantastic for most people. You know, you're usually sharing a room with four other people. They're very stark, very, very basic type of places. But for me, that's okay. I don't need anything fancy at this point in my life. I'm happier to be working and to be enjoying this particular company because it is a high tech company. So as much as the neighborhood and the living conditions might not have been as fantastic, the factory would have been, because our factory involves a lot of robots and robotics putting together the components of the products. And it would have been very interesting to see from an engineering standpoint all of that going on. Whereas, again, it's not ideal for living and the day to day working. That in itself would have made it worthwhile. And I can, of course, go over and visit the factory if I like, but at present, I've been busy enough here that I don't. So where is here? Well, here we work in a modern business center where it's 15-story buildings all laid out in a little very, very nice pattern. We have a floor of the building where I have my own little office here that is air conditioned. It's private, obviously. I'm sitting here making a video in my office right now during one of my breaks. And there are facilities nearby that are just fantastic. There's a shopping center right next door with easily 100 different restaurants to eat in, grocery shopping there. There's a gym there. There's a hotel. It's a nice neighborhood to walk through. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still in a factory town, but this particular little sector of this factory town is much more appealing than others. Now, there's still no movie theaters or fancy luxury shopping centers, things like that. And the public transportation, though it is available, it is very crowded since there are lots and lots and lots of factory and office workers around here. So taking the bus is simply not something that I would do. However, there is a subway station going to be opening soon here within the next year, which will dramatically improve the access to not only the company, but to other places in Shenzhen as well. So that's going to be fantastic. But the building is air conditioned. You know, there's a very nice coffee machine downstairs. I can walk across the street and go get any type of food that I want. There's fast food and Chinese foods and different ethnic foods. There's an Italian restaurant over there, which is really quite cool. However, it's not without its downsides. One of the, the bigger downsides for me, especially being a bigger guy, is that the bathrooms here are all squat pots. So if you got to do number two, you best be doing your yoga because you want to get as low as you can go. That is the rule here. And also the bathrooms are rather crowded here as this is an office tower. There are hundreds of people working here, and typically there's three stalls on either side of the building for all those people. So it can get a bit ripe in there during the workday. However, I combat that by simply coming to work early. I even though I do start at 8:30, and my first meeting typically doesn't start till 9 or shortly after. I show up at 7:15, for two reasons. One of the reasons being that getting my Didi, my Uber to work in the morning, if I leave my house right at 7 o'clock, it will get me here at 7:15 because there's no traffic jams yet, and it will cost me less than $4. If I waited till 7:30, then it would take me an hour to get here due to the traffic jams, rush hour, and it would cost me probably double, probably $8 to $10 to come. So for me, it's worthwhile to get up earlier at home, and I do my little workout in the morning there, hop into the DD, and even though I'm here a couple hours early, I do things like this. research videos. I do my Chinese lessons because I am still doing Chinese lessons every day, even though my communicative ability is what I consider to be good enough, 差不多, to live and work in China. I do want to achieve a low level of fluency, if not complete fluency. So I do study HSK every day. I use Rosetta Stone on the computer every day. I use other software like Duolingo every day. So I use this time to do more, to be more disciplined. And then during the lunch break, when everybody else is sleeping, I will actually unroll my yoga mat, not for a nap, but I will do yoga, push-ups, some body weight exercises while I'm here in the office as well. And then at 6 p.m., when I'm done work, I will head home. Sometimes, due to the traffic of rush hour, it can take an hour. If it's the day before a holiday, it can take up to 2 hours to go 6 kilometers. It's quite crazy. But I'm working my way up to, as the weather begins to cool, to just walking home every day. I'll take a $4 DD in the morning and then walk home after work. It might take an hour, but that would still be less than the days before the holidays anyway. Working in the office tower is nice. It's a nice environment. There's lots to see and do. It's quite comfortable. However, it's not as technically interesting as it would be over at the factory. Now, there is talk in the office that we might move the entire operation over to the factory at some point, or we may stay here. I don't know. But anyway, you look at it, I'm really enjoying my time in this job. As I mentioned before in the previous video, if this had been offered to me as a teaching job in a training center, a school, something like that, I would have said no. At this point in my life, I'm not interested in another teaching career because teaching is a heck of a lot of work. It's very demanding. Don't ever think that just because teachers, especially in China, get weekends and holidays off, that it's an easy job. It's not. It's very, very challenging, especially if you're teaching children, and especially if you're teaching children in the public system where there's a lot of students. You can get 30 to 60 kids in a class and have to teach 5 different classes a week where you are creating materials, you are grading tests, you are doing progress reports, etc., 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 on top of activities outside of the regular curriculum, and just generally being active enough to keep your students engaged and entertained. There's nothing worse than the boring teacher that stands at the whiteboard and goes, "Today we are learning about blah, 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 blah." The kids will all fall asleep and you'll lose them. But if you're active and you're energetic and you're running around like I always did as a teacher, it was very, very easy to get them involved. And like I said, at this stage, I'd rather go put my activity into my yoga, my calisthenics, and the gym, to be quite honest, to get back into shape again. So there you go. That part two, I guess, of my work related video about where I'm actually working and what I'm actually doing. If you have any other questions about my job or about other jobs, teaching, manufacturing, sales, importing, exporting, by all means, let me know. And hey, if you're an importer or exporter that's looking to find products in China, I have people that can help. Just let me know down in the comments below and we'll get in touch, and I can put you in touch directly with people that can help you find whatever you need. But anyway, let's leave it off there. Thank you for joining me today as always, and we will see you in the next video. 再见。